Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel and the series of reviewing the current state of Deadlock for the month of April 2025. So this past month has not really had much going for it, or had much happened really in Deadlock apart from like two actual minor patches which have some significant changes to them, but we have not received a major patch or update since the map update at the end of February. March also still didn't have really anything major. It was more sort of changes and minor changes still. But it's now been 2 months. We just passed 9 weeks since the map rework update. So whatever they're making is going to be quite big, quite significant, and it's going to change the game drastically. Whether it's a ton of new heroes, rework to current heroes, an item shop rework or objective rework or whatever like that. It's going to be big, and I'm very much looking forward to it. Whether it comes next week at the beginning of May, who knows? But because that would be 10 weeks, and that's, you know, it's been a long time since a major update. But in order to actually progress and develop the game, you need these big influential updates for the game. So I'm very much looking forward to what they have in store for us. So let's go over the two minor updates that were done during April. So one was at the beginning of April, on the 4th of April, and had a few significant changes that definitely are worthy of being talked about. So they've done other usual changes like the soul orbs that come out of the minions. They're like just changes to them, like the size of increasing and the delay. So it's much easier to like secure them or deny them, because it's very important now, especially with the patch later in the month. That's always, they've been put a big emphasis on denying and securing souls. That it should be like common practice that you actually try and secure or deny every soul you see, right? Because it does allow you to get ahead in economy against your opponent. So they're always doing updates to that, and we'll get back to soul orbs later in the other update that comes later in April, sorry. But another big thing is that they removed the outer lane teleporters. So before you had 6 teleporters. You had the ones at the back of the walkers near you, and of course the enemy ones, and the 2 ones near the shops, or the shop, and then the underground part. And then you had the ones in the middle of the side lanes. Now they've removed them, and I think the reasoning for removing them is because it allowed rotations and ganking to be way too easy in this type of map. Since the map it's the same size as the 4-lane map, but because of 3 lanes, it's a lot harder to actually rotate between lanes. There's a lot of space in between, like the mid lane and then the other lane. So if you want to go from the one side lane to the right lane, you're going to either have to go all the way through the middle of the map, or go back to base and then go on the zip line again. Or you could do it easily with the teleporters, and it just allowed, they saw that it was a bit too easy to do that, and made it so that, it's like one side lane, won their lane, they destroyed the Guardian, and then they could easily, if you're around that time where the teleport came online, you just went into the teleporter, and then you have a 4v2 in the other side lane, and you could roll the Guardian as well. It has allowed for too much snowballing and too much ganking as well, that they probably didn't like, so they since removed them. And as well, they've actually increased the sprint speed across the board, like for every single hero, because of the bigger map, and they're saying, you know, rotating is a bit hard and whatnot. So movement is much more important. So they have removed just the easy, maybe exploitable outer lane teleporters, which is the biggest thing for this patch on the 4th of April. So they removed those. They also removed the middle of the mid arch from being occupied. Before, characters that had a lot of poke, even somewhat like, it was mainly because of Lash, mainly, could get up there, get in the early game, in the laning phase, and then easily do like a ton of damage once he like ground slams you at like 30 seconds in and half your health bar's gone. They since removed that, so it's much harder to actually stay up there now, and definitely is a change that I think most people appreciate. They also did some other changes, some balancing things. Calico got some nerfs, like her healing from the slash got reduced, health growth per level or boon got reduced, more damage reductions to Holiday's barrels and her crack shot ability. Sinclair gets changes as usual, changed in his upgrades and whatever. And they also nerfed Infuser, because Infuser was seeing a lot of play. A lot of people were picking up Infuser because it gave a lot of extra spirit and lifesteal pretty early on, as it was only it's only a 500 cost item, so a lot of characters, even ones that really didn't do that much spirit, still took it because there was a lot of extra damage and lifesteal for your lane, which was reduced. So this patch on the 4th, quite significant only because of the outer lane teleporters got removed, reducing movement and ganking opportunities once they came online. So they made it so wall jumping was also reworked somewhat, but I'm not. It's a lot of technical things with wall jumping and things like that, but in general, this patch was significant just because of the outer lane teleporters being removed. And I thought that, oh, we might see something somewhat soon afterwards, like for the entirety of April after this patch or something. I was like, oh, we're going to get a major update this month in April. However, I maybe heard of it years ago, but completely forgot. But I learned that Valve actually has a yearly company vacation to Hawaii every single April for about 8 days to 8 to 14 days, which is like complimentary paid for the employees, and it can extend to families joining as well. So about 2 weeks in April every year, Valve employees go on holiday to Hawaii, which is probably why the gap between the 4th of April update and then the next update was April 17th seems quite big, and also why we probably haven't gotten a major update yet, because they spent around 2 weeks on vacation, which is fine. I think they've done yearly, pretty much yearly. Maybe with COVID in around 2020, 2021, they may have not done it. Well, actually didn't do it, but they couldn't do it, sorry. But it's something they just do yearly, which is fine. I didn't know about it. Makes sense. So yeah, the next minor patch that happened was on the 17th of April. A lot more significant. Like, the changes in this felt similar to the fortnightly 2-week type patches we had in 2024, with quite a substantial change to the economy and a lot of nerfs and changes to items and heroes. So starting off, we have the Soul Orb change. They removed the duplication rules on Soul Orbs before the 8-minute mark. What that means, essentially, if you don't know, is before 8 minutes, you essentially doubled the souls from minions. So if you're in the duo lane, which is what all the lanes were, of course, with 3 lanes now, is if you kill the minion and it has 100 souls, when the game starts, it doesn't have 100 souls in it, but I'm just going to give an example. For 100 souls in the minion, if you killed the base and the actual minion, it gave 50 souls. Both people on your team would get 50 souls from that kill, and then the orb would also have 50 souls. If you both killed the minion and secured the soul, both people would get 100 souls from that minion, even though that minion is worth 100 souls. This then changed at 8 minutes, where it became only if it was the same amount of 100 souls, if one person killed it, that 100 souls would be split, and you would have 50 souls for one person and 50 souls for the other, having the actual value be 100 souls. If that makes sense. That is what is happening now with this change from the 17th of April. So essentially, it means that you can actually quite easily, I don't know how easily it can be, but you can sort of hyper farm a single character if you actually leave your lane. If one of your teammates dies in lane and you're the only person there, you can kill the entire enemy trooper wave and you would get the 100% of the soul value, and it would actually boost you quite up significantly. If someone's quite far behind, you can let them sit in lane, in the laning phase, and get them, quite fed. It also, I think this change, the cause of it is to allow, more farm heavy characters to farm easier in lane, and allows for support characters and people that would like to gank easier, because then it allows for the carries to get farmed easier, and then carries can support characters and gank characters can go over to other lanes, and is a bit more forgiving in that regard. If you're fine with like taking less farm as a support, which in generally you are going to have to do. As we're typical with other MOBAs, usually supports don't farm camps that much because they're not that great at clearing them, and they let their teammates get the kills so they can get farmed the most because they're the ones putting out the most damage. So it sounded a bit strange at first, but it just also puts more emphasis on actually securing and denying souls, because you can get a big, because of how like less souls in general are gathered from this, it means denying souls, and of course making sure your souls are secured, does drastically impact the economy in the laning phase, and allows you to drastically get an improvement over your opponent. There was also some other changes, changes to Guardian's attack range and damage and stuff. Players can no longer parry troopers. There's a thing that I didn't really like. It's just like allowed you to parry a trooper when they tried to attack you. Essentially freezing the wave if you parried a trooper, meaning they would just like kind of get stunned. Similar to how you can parry Guardians, but I'm guessing they didn't like it for troopers because of, it can cause an adverse effect on economy of the lane, which they maybe just didn't like as much, and it adds complexity in like having to freeze a wave, so the enemies are denied souls and stuff like that. But for a casual player, it feels a bit off, and I didn't really like it in my opinion. So yeah, they also made the urn. They did some changes to the urn where the urn now reveals you immediately. There is no like buffer timer. It was like 5, 10, I think it's about 10 seconds actually. Between you picking up the urn and carrying it to where it reveals you on the map. So when you now pick up the urn, it will reveal your icon on the map to the enemy team immediately. So you can know like this character is taking the urn and they're running it across the map. Which does less, like, on one hand it is good because you can know, it allows you to like actually take the time to go over to the location rather than someone can run it across through the middle of the map and get it before they even are revealed, which probably was the reason why, the fact that there was probably a good number of people that would just run the urn without even being revealed, just allowing for free urns or whatever, but they removed that. So I think overall it's a positive change. The first urn is now considered for comeback mechanics. Before, the first urn was always neutral. It was always on one side and you always had it directly on the other side of the map on the lane. Now the first urn, if you're that far behind and the first urn is picked up, it can now be on either your side or the enemy side, depending on if you are within that 15-10% soul difference of net worth for your team. One thing is also really nice that I very much appreciate is the urn now has a visual indicator if it is favoured for one side. So if the urn has green candles around it, it means it's favoured for you, meaning that the drop off is going to be on your side of the map. If there's candles around the urn are red, it's going to be the drop off is on the enemy side. And there's much appreciated quality of life visual update to the urn, because calculating 15% difference between your team's net worth and the enemy team's net worth was a bit, it's not really going to do math calculations for that much mid-match when you've got plenty of other things to juggle about. So having some kind of visual indicator is appreciated. They also essentially removed heavy melee cancel. Now heavy melee cancel was a tech where you could have heavy melee charge. What was the item called? Melee charge, I think it was just called. And Fleetfoot, or any other item that can potentially cancel, where you would sort of be in the air, heavy melee, use Fleetfoot, which was the most common one, it was the most cheapest, so most people use that, and then you would keep the momentum of the heavy melee charge, and then you would sort of like fly, not really fly, but like you would like, you know, go a much further distance. It was great for mobility on pretty much any character if you had the slots to do, you know, to use this combo. And most people somewhat accepted it. It was great on Abrams. It was great on other characters that may have melee because it felt in, you know, it fit in with their kit because you know, they're buying melee items in general. But a lot of other characters were buying this combo and using it, which they probably didn't like as much. So that it's been removed essentially, because if you try it now, you basically don't move at all. You kind of just like fall down. You jump, heavy melee, use Fleetfoot, and then you sort of like move slightly. But it's kind of been removed, and some people don't like that it was removed because some people really like that tech. I never actually got around to like trying it out or using it, but overall, I think it's a positive change, as it did allow for a lot of easy escapes. But that's sort of like how tech goes, somewhat. So, yeah. Then there's been a bunch of other item changes, usually just reduced in shields or health and damage and stuff like that. But one big change was that A shift, Ethereal Shift, the tier 3 spirit item active, has now been moved to tier 4, meaning it's basically double the price. Now E shift was a very, very good item. It was allowed you to basically, anyone could have it on your team. You know, you picked it up and you were basically, if you were getting like CC, you start getting a CC changed or come under heavy damage or anything, you could pop it and you're safe for like 3 seconds. It was 3.5, yeah, it says on the patch notes here. And you would basically be safe, and then you could use some kind of other item, or it'd give you the time to escape while your teammates got the enemies off of you or anything like that. It was a very good item. They have now removed it from tier 3 to tier 4 and making it more expensive. With that, they didn't do what they did with Veilwalker, because Veilwalker also moved from tier 3 to tier 4, but with unlike Veilwalker, if E-Shift got some good buffs by increasing its duration from 3.5 seconds to 4, can now be cancelled early and gives you more speed once you come out of E-Shift, because you get a bit of resistance and a bit of movement speed once you come out of the sort of E-Shift type effect. Whereas Veilwalker only sort of increased the shields slightly or something like that. It was not great of a compensation buff for it to be double the price. E-Shift is still really good, but it's very expensive. So you'll see it less, and it does mean that certain characters are going to be better. For example, Lash, because E-Shift is a great counter to Lash. If he was in the air and then used his ultimate, you could just E-Shift and basically deny being grabbed by him. But now, since it's more expensive, you're going to see less E-Shifts, and Lash is more likely to actually lock onto you now. But they did nerf his lock-on time from 0.6 to 0.7 as a compensation. Nerf. Actually, lock-on time increased. Yeah. So overall, they actually nerfed the Lash alongside. Does it equal out? I still think Lash is overall better off because E-Shift was actually quite a big counter to him. But yeah, and then there's a lot of other hero changes. Calico got some gun damage nerfs. Grey Talon got some scaling nerfs. Holiday got some changes as well, and overall. But one big change they did was to Bebop. He now has 2 stamina instead of 3 at base. His regen has been reduced from 3 to 1.5 and no longer gains 1% spirit resist per boon. Honestly, Bebop's base stats were pretty insane, to be honest, and he kind of did need some nerfs in that department. So, and as well, they also did some other changes to Sinclair. As always, he's one of the most changed heroes, I feel like, at this point. Where they're just changing how his 1 works, his 2 works, and 3, whatever, and they're changing all the damage and the scaling and whatever. So he's very temperamental. You know, he's the most temp model in the game somewhere right now, of course. So it makes sense that he's still getting basically entire changes to his whole kit even now. So those were the two minor quotation updates for April. No actual new additions to the game whatsoever in April, so meaning we have been 2 months since a major update, and hopefully we should get one in May. Don't know when in May. It could be, you know, next week, for we know. It could be whenever. So, and does it mean it's necessarily going to be on Tuesday? Who knows? It could be on a Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, or even a Monday. But most likely it's going to be on a Tuesday or a Thursday maybe, but like I said, who knows? It's Valve. They're taking their time with this. They want it to be good when it comes out, so that's all we can do is wait for when this new patch comes out, and I will be talking about it next month, of course, if they do one. Otherwise, we're just going to be talking about minor patches again. So yeah, so thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.